We talked a little bit about how to measure some of this stuff, right? And this is from a meeting-based perspective. You'll see this notion called NPS, which is a meeting promoter score. It's a way to get a 360-degree view of what's happening with your audience, with your participants in that meeting. And I'm thinking in terms of maybe an agile technology project, right, where you have Scrum Masters, you have subject matter experts, and they're all sort of coming together, stakeholders, and they're having these weekly meetings. You can measure through this NPS the cohesion of that team, how well they're communicating, what the thoughts are around those. And then you can start slicing that data. You can look at that data in terms of male and female feedback. And by way of example, what you might see is a particular male individual might be scored very high by their peer groups that are males, but might be scored very low from their female peer group. And it gives, from an HR perspective, it gives a very interesting insight into what might be occurring. You might also see that relatively new employees who are brought on, you might see that maybe there's 1 to 3 years experience versus 10 to 15 years experience. You might see that they have a different way of working, which is kind of seen on that right-hand side. Maybe they're more tactical in their approach as opposed to being more strategic in their approach. And you have the ability to start defining that data set, again, very quickly, with just 5 or 6 questions at the end of every meeting. And that's ultimately one of the ways, if not the primary way, that we help combine organizational HR data into workplace data. Daniel, anything to add there?
Yeah, I was just going to mention something that you and I have talked about previously in terms of this is all, it can feel a little bit big brother, and I think it's really important to understand what is the type of data, where does it feel okay to give this type of data to HR as identifiable information for the workforce versus when do we keep it unidentifiable when it's to someone like HR, but then push maybe some of these insights to the individual users so that they can read some of it and try to change their own behavior and get some of those insights. Now, just as I said with management earlier, not everybody's going to have the capability to change on their own given the insights. So there may be a need to have someone that they can go to talk to and review some of these things. But it is a very tricky and fine balance thinking about what data gets shown to whom and for what outcome.
Yeah, well said. And we're going to hop into questions here in just a second. But to expound on that a little bit, I think being able to give the employees a sense of comfort that the initial set of data, the initial rollout of insights, what does that mean? What's the initiative? What's our starting point? What do we hope to achieve? Where are we headed? How do you measure it? Give me as an employee a sense for how my actions benefit the organization in these measurements. And you democratize that, you push it out. The next thing I think that the organization needs to figure out is, from an HR perspective, what data sets can I use in a very closed environment, very typical HR environment, to help coach employees? And that's ultimately what this is. It then becomes a coaching tool that is potentially one-on-one. It's handled very privately and independently between HR, the manager, and the individuals to show improvement. And that is ultimately, I think, the best way to start really getting tactical on your inclusivity plans, your employee engagement plans, and potentially your employee well-being plans, and understanding what's bringing them anxiety and what's causing the barriers for successful freedom. So let's go to.
I was just going to say one final thing, that just a quick comment. Thinking about you had that page with all of the different tools. I mean, it's not completely comprehensive, but a fairly comprehensive page of tools available. But I would ask anybody who's looking at bringing in a new type of technology, a new bit of software, how does it benefit your end users? How does it benefit your people? Because if you can show that it benefits them, they're going to appreciate it. They're going to feel supported, and it's going to add to their well-being, and they'll use it more. So I would, anything that you're looking at purchasing, think about how it contributes to the employee experience.